If you're tired of sounding like a textbook robot every time you try to express yourself, you're about to learn the one linguistic secret that native speakers use to instantly sound more sophisticated and stop people from judging your English. Right now, I am hiding behind a ridiculous fiberglass cube at the Earthly Art Museum's amateur critique competition. I am hiding because I just publicly embarrassed myself in front of Earth's most terrifying and judgmental species, the local art snob.
Julian, your analysis of this piece was simply breathtaking.
Thank you, Director Vance. The brushwork is absolutely exquisite, wouldn't you agree?
That is Julian. He is my primary rival for the coveted Golden Docent badge. When it was my turn to describe a classic Renaissance portrait in the first round, I proudly stepped up and declared that the frame was very big and the paint was very old. I thought those were perfectly descriptive words. Instead, the entire gallery fell completely dead silent. Director Vance looked at me like I had just finger-painted all over a priceless masterpiece. Julian actually laughed out loud, and they promptly dismissed me to the spectator section. My vocabulary was technically correct, but to a native English speaker, stringing together basic adjectives with very sounds weak, repetitive, and completely unconvincing. To win this competition, I needed significantly better ammunition. I started scanning the gallery, carefully eavesdropping on how patrons actually described the artwork. A woman in a thick scarf did not complain that the museum lobby was very cold. She tightly crossed her arms, shivered dramatically, and called it freezing. Freezing packs the intense meaning of very cold into one single powerful word. It instantly elevates her sentence and removes the need for filler words. In the next exhibition wing, 2 art students were staring up at a giant modern mural. One did not say it was very big. He leaned back, wide-eyed, and said it was massive. And that Renaissance portrait I called very old? A professional tour guide walked by and described it to his group as ancient. These strong adjectives are the hidden cheat code to native-level fluency. If a gallery is very crowded, it is packed. If a sculpture is very small, it is tiny. Native speakers collect these strong adjectives because they carry genuine emotion and precision. The word very just adds lazy volume to a basic concept. I filled my entire research notebook with these upgrades, feeling completely invincible. I was finally ready to destroy Julian in the semi-finals. But why do Americans actually judge you for this? It's because strong words carry genuine emotion, while very just adds lazy volume.
Did she just say very massive? Oh, the absolute tragedy of it all.
A bit redundant and entirely clumsy, wouldn't you agree?
My translation matrix completely crashed. I used the correct strong adjective, but they still laughed right in my face. Julian shook his head in pity, and I was immediately disqualified from the semi-final. I had just walked blindly into the biggest trap of English modifiers. Sitting in the museum cafe in defeat, I frantically analyzed my grammatical error. That is when the underlying logic finally clicked into place. Adjectives in English fall into 2 strict categories. The first type is gradable. Think of gradable adjectives exactly like a volume dial on a music speaker. You can be a little cold, quite cold, or very cold. They can be easily measured and adjusted. Sitting in defeat, I realized Julian wasn't just using better vocabulary, he was exploiting a hidden mathematical rule of English adjectives. Because they are already extreme by definition, ungradable adjectives instantly reject the word very. So what happens if you really need to emphasize them? You have to use absolute modifiers. You do not say very massive, you say absolutely massive. You do not say very exhausting, you say completely exhausting or totally exhausting. The rules finally made perfect sense, and I had one last chance to prove it. The final redemption round was starting in exactly 3 minutes. I needed to calibrate my brain. Look at this abstract splatter painting on the wall. If I want to say it is very bad, what is the extreme ungradable version? Say it out loud with me. It is not very bad, it is awful, or terrible, or horrendous. The extreme meaning is securely locked inside the word. Now let us properly add the correct modifier. If you want to strongly emphasize how awful it is, what word do you place in front? Do you say very awful? No. You say absolutely awful or completely awful. Do you feel how much more authority and sophistication that instantly gives your sentence? Julian was not going to survive my final, perfectly calibrated critique. One more quick test before I face the judges again. This delicate glass sculpture is not very pretty. It is gorgeous or stunning. And if I want to emphasize its beauty, it is absolutely stunning. My advanced vocabulary was locked. My absolute modifiers were perfectly aligned. I marched aggressively back into the main gallery to claim that golden docent badge once and for all. With Director Vance calling us back for the grand finale, I had 10 seconds to lock in my ultimate upgrade. How do you emphasize very pretty?
Splendid! A truly exquisite and perfectly articulated observation. You win.
But she was saying very big an hour ago. This is an outrage.
Vance firmly pinned the golden docent badge to my jacket while Julian stormed out of the gallery in an absolutely furious rage. Dropping very didn't just fix my English grammar. It commanded instant respect from the harshest, most judgmental critics on planet Earth. Find an object near you right now and describe it aloud using an absolute modifier and a strong adjective. Test this upgraded vocabulary on humans today. I will continue documenting Earth linguistics shortly. Subscribe to join the next expedition.